What is more dangerous, the man who shows you his sword, or the man who convinces you he has none? Men are blind not because they lack eyes, but because they believe safety where there is only deception. The clever know that power is never revealed in full. It hides, waits, and strikes when defenses have turned to dust. To be feared too soon is to lose, but to be dismissed is to win without resistance. Remember, the most lethal enemy is the one you laugh at. And once you laugh, you are already his prey. Would you like to know why? Intelligence, when left untamed, is like fire without a hearth. It illuminates for a moment, then burns everything around it to ash. Many men pride themselves on being clever, yet they fail to see that wit, when uncontrolled, becomes the very force that destroys its wielder before it harms anyone else. Consider how a man who delights in showing his cleverness too often ends up trapped by his own tongue. He exposes his schemes too early, mocks the wrong rival, or sharpens his words so finely that they cut even the hands that held them. What could have been a weapon of great precision instead becomes a reckless display, drawing enemies from every corner and leaving him vulnerable to their strike. Cleverness without restraint intoxicates its possessor. It whispers that every thought must be spoken, every insight revealed, every superiority displayed. But the truly dangerous man is not the one who shouts his intelligence for all to hear. It is the one who can conceal it, the one who bends his cleverness into silence, patience, and discipline. For wit that cannot be harnessed is nothing but arrogance dressed in fine words, and arrogance has toppled more men than ignorance ever has. A blade in the hand of a child will wound the child before it reaches the enemy. Likewise, a sharp mind, when held without mastery, cuts its owner deeper than it cuts his rivals. It exposes flaws, creates resentment, and stirs suspicion in others who might otherwise have remained allies. Many fall not because they lacked intelligence, but because they displayed too much of it too soon, without measure or control. Understand, this restraint does not diminish cleverness, it strengthens it. A man who governs his wit, who chooses carefully when to reveal his sharpness, and when to cloak it, becomes not merely clever, but formidable. His words strike when they are needed, and his silence becomes a weapon just as sharp as his tongue. Discipline transforms intelligence into power, just as a sheath gives purpose to a sword. If you wish to be clever and dangerous, you must learn the art of hiding as much as the art of showing. Conceal more than you reveal. Allow others to underestimate you, to think your intelligence harmless or even absent. Let them relax in their false comfort while your mind calculates in silence. Then, when the moment arrives, release your cleverness not in scattered sparks, but in one precise, devastating flame that leaves no chance for recovery. The difference between the clever man and the dangerous one is simple. The clever man speaks to prove he is intelligent, while the dangerous man waits to prove he is inevitable. The mask of harmlessness has undone more men than open violence ever could. People fear the wolf that bares its teeth, but they rarely guard themselves against the one that walks quietly among the sheep. To be dangerous is not to show your strength, but to conceal it so artfully that no one suspects the trap until it has already closed. A mind that parades its cunning invites resistance, yet a mind that veils its intentions behind humility, gentleness, or even apparent foolishness disarms every watcher. For who guards themselves against the harmless, who strikes first against the one who bows, who smiles, who pretends to be smaller than he is. This disguise is the sharpest blade, because it strikes not only the body, but the mind of the opponent. Once your rivals believe you are weak, they lower their guard. They reveal their secrets. They show their pride. They laugh at you as if you were beneath them. And in that laughter lies their undoing, because the enemy who does not respect you will never prepare for you. The most decisive victories are not won against enemies who stand alert, but against those who sleep while the knife is already at their throat. But wearing the mask is not easy. It demands patience and mastery over pride. Most men cannot endure being underestimated. They want their cleverness recognized, their strength acknowledged. They feel insulted when others mock them. But to endure mockery in silence is not weakness, it is strategy. Every slight becomes a shield, for the one who believes you powerless will never treat you as a threat until it is too late. And when the moment comes to strike, the contrast between what they thought you were and what you truly are makes the blow twice as devastating. Do not mistake harmlessness for surrender. It is the art of concealment. To play the lamb while you sharpen the wolf's teeth in the dark is the height of cunning. There is no greater advantage than invisibility, and there is no mask more invisible than humility. A man who seems too simple to matter is free to move without suspicion, free to gather strength, free to weave the noose unnoticed around the neck of his enemies. When the disguise is lifted, when the lamb shows its fangs, the enemy realizes the danger only in the moment he is already powerless. And by then, mercy is no longer required. The mask is not merely protection, it is the weapon that makes you untouchable until the strike is certain. Brute strength can win battles, but cleverness conquers without lifting a sword. Force breaks walls, but subtlety walks through doors left carelessly open. Power that relies only on muscle is loud, wasteful, and temporary, but the mind that works in silence achieves victories that no army could secure. To strike with force is to gamble everything on one moment of violence. To strike with thought is to win before the battle even begins. Subtlety is the art of shaping outcomes while appearing absent from them. It is the invisible hand that rearranges the board while others believe they are the ones making the moves. With force, a man may seize a crown, but with subtlety he ensures no hand ever dares to take it from him. Those who conquer with violence always leave behind enemies, resentments, and the hunger for revenge. But those who conquer with cunning leave behind only confusion, as if fate itself had chosen their victory. The strong man is feared until someone stronger appears. The clever man, however, weaves a web so delicate and unseen that his enemy cannot even find the strands to cut. Subtlety dismantles opposition piece by piece, not by frontal assault, but by turning allies into doubters, by making rivals exhaust themselves, by guiding ambition into traps of its own design. It is the quiet voice that whispers the wrong advice, the small seed of doubt that grows into ruin, the gentle nudge that makes a man destroy himself while you remain untouched. To wield subtlety requires more discipline than force, for impatience exposes the hand too soon. A dagger in the dark is more reliable than 100 soldiers shouting at the gates, but only if it strikes at the precise moment when no eyes are watching. This is why the dangerous mind waits, why it studies the weaknesses of others, not to crush them openly, but to make them collapse from within. What strength cannot bend, subtlety corrodes. What cannot be destroyed in a day, cleverness consumes in silence over time. Remember this: to destroy a man with steel makes you a soldier, but to destroy him with thought makes you untouchable. For the soldier is feared only when he carries his weapon, but the clever man is feared even when his hands are empty. Subtlety is the power that lingers after the battle, the unseen chain that binds men long after the sword has been sheathed. True conquest is not in the force that breaks the body, but in the thought that enslaves the mind. Fear is a currency, and like gold, it must be spent with precision. The man who is clever yet harmless is tolerated, even liked, but he is not truly powerful until he learns when to instill fear. Charm may open doors, but fear ensures those doors never close against you. A dangerous mind knows the weight of both, and it does not lean too heavily on either. To inspire only fear breeds rebellion, and to inspire only charm breeds exploitation. The art lies in balance, in striking that precise moment when fear is more profitable than affection. Most men waste their cleverness by seeking admiration. They crave applause, recognition, and praise. But admiration is fickle, it fades as quickly as it comes, and the same crowd that cheers you today will abandon you tomorrow. Fear, however, lasts. It carves itself into memory and shapes behavior, even when you are absent. The man who admires you will betray you if offered more, but the man who fears you will think twice before he dares. Yet fear must never be crude. A blunt terror reveals itself too clearly and turns allies into conspirators. True fear works in silence, like a shadow that follows a man whether he sees it or not. It does not always require violence. Often it is enough for your enemy to believe you capable of what you have not yet done. A reputation of danger is more powerful than a single act of cruelty, for reputation multiplies itself in the minds of many. One calculated act can create years of obedience, as long as it is performed at the right time, with the right witness, and for the right reason. The clever man studies the minds of others, asking when will fear serve me more than friendship. Some men are best ruled with kindness until kindness dulls them into complacency. Others are best ruled with fear until fear paralyzes their ambition. To know when to shift from one to the other is the highest form of mastery. Too soon, and you waste your weapon. Too late, and you risk being struck first. Understand this: fear is not cruelty for its own sake. It is control, pure and enduring. Charm decorates the throne, but fear cements it to the ground. The man who is truly dangerous wears both faces, smiling when it suits him, and letting his shadow fall when smiles lose their power. Fear is not the opposite of cleverness. It is its proof. Patience is the silent ally of the dangerous mind. Cleverness without patience is like lightning, brilliant, powerful, and yet fleeting, leaving only a brief scar before the darkness returns. But cleverness harnessed with patience is like the slow rising tide. It erodes stone, topples fortresses, and swallows empires without ever rushing. Most men fail not because they lack intelligence, but because they cannot wait for their intelligence to ripen into inevitability. They act too quickly, reveal too much, or strike before the enemy has made himself vulnerable. In their haste, they trade certainty for chance, and chance has destroyed more schemes than ignorance ever could. Patience allows cleverness to observe the patterns that impulsive men never see. It waits for arrogance to grow in rivals, for loyalty to weaken, for small cracks in alliances to widen into fractures. A single word spoken at the wrong moment can undo months of planning, but a word withheld until the perfect instant can undo kingdoms. The one who waits is not idle. He is gathering, measuring, watching, ensuring that when he strikes, there will be no resistance left to face. Consider the enemy who feels secure. He relaxes his guard, trusts too freely, indulges in carelessness. To attack him while he is still alert may bring struggle and risk, but to wait until his confidence blinds him is to guarantee victory. Patience transforms cleverness into inevitability, for it ensures that the strike is not only sharp, but also final. The dagger in the night kills more surely than the sword at noon. Impatience, by contrast, is a form of weakness disguised as strength. It is the arrogance of thinking the world must bend to your timing, rather than you bending to the timing of the world. The impatient man exposes himself, reveals his cleverness too soon, and allows his enemy to prepare. The patient man, however, lets others exhaust themselves, lets them show their hand, lets them believe they are safe. And when all illusions are at their strongest, he shatters them in one stroke. The dangerous man does not rush. He knows that the world belongs not to the swift, but to the enduring. A moment of patience can preserve years of power. A moment of haste can destroy it. Cleverness without patience is nothing but sparks in the wind. Cleverness with patience is fire that consumes everything in its path, slowly, silently, and without escape. The man who waits is the man who wins. The most formidable power is not in being feared or admired, but in being forgotten as a threat. When others believe you harmless, when they convince themselves that you are no danger, they lower the walls that protect them. They reveal their weaknesses in laughter, their secrets in trust, their pride in mockery. To allow yourself to be underestimated is to let your enemy build the very road that leads to his own downfall. No weapon strikes more fatally than the one no one saw being sharpened. This is the art of concealment, to let others think they are safe while your mind works in silence. Men prepare against the wolf they see. They leave their doors open for the dog they think is tame. To appear harmless is not weakness, it is strategy. It is the smile that veils the dagger, the calm that precedes the storm, the still surface of water that hides the current beneath. Once they believe you pose no threat, they will cease to guard themselves. And that is the moment your strength becomes absolute. Understand that power is not lost by being underestimated. It is multiplied. For while your rivals waste their vigilance on louder enemies, you move unnoticed, gathering strength, weaving influence, bending outcomes to your will. They cannot fight what they cannot see. And when at last they recognize the danger, the game is already over. Their defense is useless, their escape cut off. This is why the most dangerous mind is the one that makes others comfortable. It allows them to mistake silence for weakness, patience for passivity, and restraint for absence. By the time they realize silence was calculation, patience was preparation, and restraint was control, they are already in chains. There is no need to declare yourself dangerous. The world will know it only when it is too late to resist.